If I were giving a presentation on the time commitment of admin 60/20 and going through the bullet points on this slide, it would take until we got to the very last bullet point for the audience to truly understand the message of the slide. This is what happens in traditional slide design, where we have a topic and then subtopics listed beneath it in bullet points. Let's compare the previous slide with this slide. They know what the message of that slide is right away, and then they have support for that claim beneath it in the form of a table. This is what's called an assertion-evidence model slide. My name's Dr. Bailey Benedict, and I have a Ph.D. in organizational communication. I've been teaching speech classes for almost a decade. We all know slideshows are a mainstay of American workplaces, especially when we're presenting really complicated information or when we're sending our slides out to audiences who weren't able to be at our presentation in person. Traditional slide design, where we just have a header with a few words and then some random bullet points beneath it, is ineffective. It doesn't benefit our audience or us as speakers. With traditional slide design having many weaknesses, assertion-evidence model slides present opportunities for speakers in professional environments. So today I'm going to talk about the problems with traditional slide design, as well as introduce assertion-evidence model slides. Then I'll describe the benefits of assertion-evidence model slides. Let's get started with the bad. There are 3 key problems with traditional slide design. They have many flaws, they're not audience-centered, and they may not benefit learning. Traditional slides have many flaws. There's overcrowded text with small font sizes, and overuse of bullet points, poor organization and lack of visual hierarchy, irrelevant graphics, and complex charts and graphs. All of this comes together to make slides that are confusing, boring, and sometimes downright ugly. Traditional slides are also not audience-centered. When we look at the slide on the right, traditional slides like this one put the responsibility of translating the message onto the audience instead of onto the speaker. And as we've talked about, our job as speakers is to make the audience's job easy. The message should be easy for them to understand. With traditional slide design, the audience needs to determine how the information builds on the speaker's argument. So as we can see in the slide on the left, if we just have a header that says hybrid work schedule, the audience then has to look at that graph and figure out what's going on in the graph, and then also how does what's going on in the graph contribute to the argument that the speaker is making. However, if we provide the argument for the audience, it makes their life a lot easier. We might say more U.S. workers with teleworkable jobs were working from home in 2013 than in 2022. So when your audience sees that, they know they can be looking for a difference between 2022 and 2023 and the number of U.S. workers that were working teleworkable jobs. Research also suggests the idea that traditional slides may not actually be benefiting learning. 4 researchers from West Virginia University published an article in Computers in Education, which is an academic journal that has an impact factor of 12, which is pretty high and means it's very highly regarded in the academic community. These researchers conducted a meta-analysis, and what a meta-analysis does is it takes a bunch of studies that have looked at a similar topic, and it looks for an overall effect between 2 variables. And what they found in the meta-analysis, when they compared PowerPoint instruction to traditional instruction across 48 studies in a 22-year period, they found there was no difference in students' learning between PowerPoint instruction and traditional instruction. But what the authors do is they call for researchers to look at how instructors use the features of PowerPoint to benefit students, rather than just whether or not they use PowerPoint. One of these features could be how presenters use headers to benefit their audiences. Assertion-evidence slides are an audience-centered option that uses headers to benefit the audience. The header is an assertion. It's a full sentence that makes a claim about what the presenter is discussing. Then beneath, so the assertion and then the evidence below is best if it's an image or some sort of graph or picture or data, but it can also be text or a combination of both. Our slide titles need a few things to be maximally effective. They should convey our message as a full declarative sentence that distills our message into 1 or 2 lines. We don't want 3 or more lines across the top of our slide because then it gets overwhelming for our reader to read. We want this text to be the largest text on our slide, and be consistently located, ideally starting in the upper left corner like we would normally read a page or a book. And our heading is going to be easily readable with a good font. I want us to see the difference between an assertion evidence slide and a traditional slide. So notice how the headline and chart on the left make the slide harder to understand. We see U.S. resource use, but we don't really understand what all these percentages are trying to tell us. Contrast that with the slide on the right, we have an assertion that says although the U.S. has 5% of the world's population, we use an average of 30% of all resources. Then those percentages are in context for our audience. They know what those percentages are meaning and how they're contributing to the argument. There are benefits to using assertion evidence model slides, both for audiences and for presenters. Assertion evidence slides help audiences make sense of information. Although the researcher didn't study assertion evidence in particular, I want to call out a research study by a senior lecturer at Loughborough University School of Business and Economics that was published in an academic journal article in 2018. The article in the Journal of Further and Higher Education found that use of relevant images with reduced text increased students' engagement and understanding of lecture material. And this was based on 2 experiments and 2 focus groups conducted across 2 years with undergraduate students in sociology. There has also been research on assertion evidence in particular. This research has found that audiences viewing assertion evidence model slides have better comprehension and lower perceived cognitive load, and they also perform better on related tests when learning through assertion evidence model slides. Along with benefiting audiences, assertion evidence model slides can also benefit presenters too. These 2 visualizations come from a study that was done on undergraduate students who were tasked with creating slides that illustrated their course's content material. Some students created the traditional slides with a header that had a topic and then subtopics in bullet points or in descriptions, and some students used assertion evidence slides. They found that the group that drew out assertion evidence slides had better understanding of content than the students that just used the topics and subtopics. In conclusion, with traditional slide design having many weaknesses, assertion evidence model slides offer opportunities for professional presenters. We talked about some problems with traditional slides, and then I introduced assertion evidence model slides. Then I described some of the benefits of assertion evidence slides. At the beginning of the presentation, I showed an example of a traditional slide design, which many of us are accustomed to using, and an assertion evidence model slide. And while it might be a little harder to develop an assertion evidence model slide, it can have benefits for both you and your audience.